Welcome to another episode of the Preparing for Pregnancy After Loss podcast. I am here with a very special guest, my dear friend Sophia. And for anyone who has been listening to the podcast for a while, if you listen to episode 2, where I shared my experience with pregnancy loss, my first experience, Sophia was the friend who joined me for that episode. So Sophia is on the birth warrior journey herself, but at a different stage in the journey. So we'll talk about that, what that looks like for her. She just did a really big thing the other day of sharing what her challenges has been, what her journey has been. So this is really the space for her to share more about that, because there's so many people who have this experience, who have the condition that Sophia has, and they haven't had the opportunity or the space to share their journey. But today's when Sophia gets to share this for the first time in as public a way as she's doing it today. So it's a really special moment for her and a special moment for me because, I have the privilege of being able to sit with her and hear this part of her story. So without further ado, welcome, Sophia.
Thank you for having me.
My absolute pleasure, of course. So I mentioned that you just did a really big thing. You just shared something on social media,
Mhm.
which was the first time that you shared that part of your story. So tell us, firstly, what that was, and secondly, what led to you sharing it at this time.
Okay, so I have a condition called endometriosis, and for the first time, I posted about the condition being specific to me because I have made random posts and reposts about the condition before, very vague, but
Mm.
I finally was able to link it to myself. I had the courage to do that. And I did that because I just had a surgery on November 24th, 2020. And
Mm.
it's my third surgery for endometriosis. And I've just had these surgeries and have been going through these things without posting anything at all on social media.
Mhm.
Um, and I just feel burdened with the just the thought that there are other women going through similar things, and there's an upsurge of like bravery right now anyway through
Mm.
2020 and through the pandemic and people using social media more. And I just wanted to release myself of that fear that I have of like people knowing too much about me, or just like I'm protective of myself and my own private issues. There's some shame about femininity there too. um,
Mm.
and also just to actually lend a helping hand. And I offered, if anybody wants to talk, 'cause people DM'd me and I've exchanged numbers with people who have had similar stories. So I just wanted to let anybody else who's going through the same thing, know
Yeah,
that they're not alone, and they can do it.
yeah, yeah.
I was doing it.
What I'm remembering very clearly from what you shared is that this is sort of like a silent condition in the sense that no one really knows the struggles that you're going through. Like people look at your body
Mhm.
externally and they assume that you're okay and really don't know just like all the pain that you're going through and how invasive these surgeries are. Like it's not like a simple thing to have gone through 3 surgeries.
Mhm.
um and I know that from you sharing your story with me, like as friends, you've mentioned that it's something that was misunderstood
Mhm.
when you were younger. It took a while for you to be diagnosed.
Mhm.
So take us back to that, like when you first started to notice that there were things happening in your body that were painful or uncomfortable.
Okay. Um, Well, just quickly before, if anybody does not know what endometriosis is, just as like the most basic definition that I could come up with, it's basically where the lining of your uterus that usually sheds, of a woman's uterus, that usually sheds, producing a menstrual cycle every month. and
Mhm.
that sheds in response to hormonal urges. It is also growing on other parts of the body outside of the uterus where it should be growing. It's growing and shedding at those spots on the other parts of your body and responding to the same hormonal urges to shed and rebuild and shed where they are growing.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question, I remember on, I think it was June 6th, June 15th, whatever the year was when I was 12. I can't do the math right now. Um, I was sitting downstairs doing something, and I had and that was the day before my cycle started. I
Mhm.
had the worst pain, and I remembered screaming, and whoever it was looked at me and said, "Why are you behaving like that?" And I was like, "I just feel something so, painful." Anyway, that
Mhm.
was the beginning of my journey. The next day my period came, and I was actually looking forward to my period because we thought it was such a great entrance to womanhood. um,
Mm.
and basically I knew that something was wrong. I didn't know that something was wrong until years later, to be honest with you. But my from my first period, my first cycle, I had
Mhm.
extremely bad periods, but I didn't have a measuring stick. I couldn't tell if that was the normal amount of pain that
Mhm.
women feel, young girls feel, or if
Mhm.
um me not strong enough to hold the pain. I always thought that uh because we can't just put a barometer inside of someone and say, oh, this is the same level of pain that I feel. Oh, this is normal, or
Mhm.
not. And so for a while I was just given whatever was available in my country. We had Panadol. Um I used to have um my periods were always really long. I would have cramps at least 4 days before it, and it would last the entire period, even on
Mhm.
even on the day when it was nothing really, when it was
Mm.
just fatigue.
Yeah.
um it was just extreme pain and disruptive pain, and I was in denial about it. Just thought that I just was not strong enough, and I wanted to be strong enough, which makes me tense. I'm trying to be strong in my body, and just not I feel bad thinking about it now because I just was having more pain than normal, and I was not supposed to be trying to be strong. It was just a lot of pain, and not just pain, but very uncomfortable things like having diarrhea and vomiting. To be very honest, it's happening at the
Mhm.
same time sometimes. Extreme
Yeah.
weakness. And so my aunt eventually, she just, because she was the one that had to hear me crying every night and had to get up from her bed and leave her room and had to tend to me,
Mhm.
she eventually, after thinking that it was just nothing or just was a regular cramp, she thought that something was definitely wrong. But with the knowledge that we had back then, it was just, we weren't sure what it was. It just definitely was not normal, because I would really actually be pulling out my actual hair when somebody is pulling out their hair and
Mhm.
wanting to go. Like, I just would pray that God would just take me, like, just to stop it. I was just feeling so much pain all the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Um, you know, eventually, I think eventually they all realized that this is not normal at all. And she's not trying to get attention. All of the other things checked out. No, she's actually, something is wrong.
Right.
Um, so yeah.
Yeah. So when did they finally realize that it was endometriosis?
Um, they realized I had a very bad episode of pain at my high school, and I was just not able to go to classes that day
Mm.
while getting to school. I wasn't able to stand straight, which is normal. It was just always like that for me, but it was just terrible that time. And they had to call my aunt and said, Something's really wrong with her. Nothing that we give her stays down. She just vomits everything back out. It's just not working. And she's really losing it, like for real. So
Wow.
she, my aunt eventually uh, took me to the hospital, and they gave me fluids because I was just passing out. And at this point, I was just a walking corpse. It just felt like I wasn't a real person because I couldn't feel anything but pain at one point. And I
Wow.
mean that every day, some pain or something's going on with me. So
Yeah.
he eventually had a reason to see a doctor in Jamaica called Dr. Fowler, but she wasn't a regular doctor. She was a doctor who was able to look at your eyes and look at the nerve endings in your eyes, which are linked to the rest of your body, and
Mhm.
tell you if you have issues or damage. And
Yeah.
that's all I remember of her. And I remember her saying to me, I think I was 16, and
Mm.
4 years of going through, maybe even more of going through it. She said, you have endometriosis and it's
Wow.
worked on your left side and it's also disrupting your bowels. So I was like, oh, my aunt was just like, okay, that makes sense, because my aunt had also started researching because it was disrupting everybody's life. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole house knew, everybody, the neighborhood knew when I was on my period, and it would be for 9 days.
Yeah.
It was terrible in a hot climate,
Mhm.
just regular painkillers and trying to go through this thing. It was really, really, really hard and
Yeah.
very, no one understood. So even after seeing that doctor, who was not a real, not the traditional doctor,
Right.
I was brought to a gynecologist who, they did all the tests and nothing was wrong. I was just, I had just heavy period, and
Mm.
that was no growths. They're not seeing any growths, and everything looks normal. I look like a normal person. I look fine. On my days when I'm not having a bleeding, I was looking great, nothing out of the ordinary.
Yeah.
I was put on at 12, though, they did put me on contraceptives. I have been on contraceptives all my life, all since 12. I have not gotten off of it, except for
Mhm.
maybe 6 months. I'd always been taking something because um, to try to help with it. That's the first thing that they did back then.
Yeah. Got it.
Mhm.
So at 16, that's when you heard for the first time that you have endometriosis.
Mhm.
And so when did treatments begin? Okay, so you were put on the contraceptive to help to, is it to prevent your cycle so that you would feel less pain?
It's just to alleviate the symptoms. I guess it would just be, yeah, to reduce the cycle span. Nothing
Mhm.
worked. That stuff did not work. And they also gave me, I think, Depo, which is not even good for you. And I gained
Mhm.
like 30 pounds in 2 weeks. But I had to take something in order to finish my degree. I was not able to manage when I got into college.
Yeah.
Um, and it would just is I wouldn't be able to finish if I didn't get something to just halt it or something. So um I was given depot shots at university, and
Mm.
that's okay. And that's the yeah, that's the one thing that helped me. And even then, it still didn't help because I still had pain, but it was never as bad as before.
Mhm.
And then the treatment actually started, real treatment, when I moved here to the US. I
Mhm.
saw about 6 doctors. I think what was happening at that time is the doctors knew about endometriosis, but it was still so novel that and it was such a difficult, insidious disease. Like, it will just come right back after being removed. It's no respecter of anything. It will just come back, and they're okay. Well, it came back, and it's just like, wow,
Yeah.
it's interesting that it all came back after removing it through surgery. It just doesn't make sense.
Mhm.
Um, so I think the doctors don't like that. They didn't like that. And one doctor told me the truth. The last doctor before I started really going through real treatment, the last doctor that I saw was a woman, and I explained to her the pain that I was feeling. And I think she saw it in me, but I was going to exit stage left if she did not listen to me, because I knew I could not live with the
Yeah.
kind of pain that I was feeling. It just was not going to be happening. It wouldn't be living. It would just be some other thing. And it just doesn't make sense to actually be here and try to be normal because I look normal.
Right.
Um, and I was overdosing on everything. I was taking 1,600 milligram ibuprofen just to have a couple of drinks with my coworkers after work, to be able to sit down and have the drinks, because it would just be that much pain. Taking 800 milligrams is not even supposed to happen in a half a day, much less
Right.
all at once. So I realized that I was running myself rugged anyway. So it would have been to be trying to be a normal young adult, and also, um, trying to not have so much pain, trying to keep up with everything that I'm supposed to be keeping up with, but also going through this much pain. It just made me do irrational things. But so I think that doctor saw it because I felt like there was this connection between me and her, and she just repeated everything I said, like, you're feeling a lot of pain and
Mm-hmm.
it's going to end. And she just kept, trailing my words. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
serious because I've had doctors who said it was maybe a phantom pain. It probably wasn't real because they can't see anything. And so because
Mm-hmm.
they can't see anything with ultrasounds, maybe it's just my mind. So
Oh
they
my gosh.
made me do a brain MRI, which I did. And the brain MRI showed that I was normal. So maybe I
Yeah.
have something where my nerves are sending pain signals to my brain, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not real. So no, that's the reason why I had to do a surgery. It was to cut my pain nerves to make my nerves stop sending pain signals to my brain. Not to
Mm-hmm.
see if I have endometriosis, but just to end the nerve, just to cut the nerves so that this could all be stopped. And when she went in to cut the nerves, she saw so much disease. She had to she did what she could, but she wasn't apt for that. So she referred me to another doctor, but she also asked me to get pregnant so that the predominant hormone would not be estrogen anymore. It would be progesterone, and
Mm-hmm.
disease runs on estrogen. So
Mm-hmm.
the hope would be that in 9 months of no estrogen triggering a period, which is your menstrual cycle, it would all die out wherever they're attached in the other body parts. Yeah, I was only 22, so I wasn't gonna have a baby when I wasn't in a stable relationship or anything. So she said if she could write me a prescription to have a baby, she would. That's
Oh.
how serious she was.
Okay.
um, but then after that, it only got worse because I didn't know this, but it's kind of like asbestos. This is why it's insidious and weird because she went through my navel and made it's a laparoscopic surgery. So she made two incisions on the two sides of my body and went through my navel. And
Mm-hmm.
the disease, as soon as the surgery was done, maybe a month later, the disease follows her wherever she made incisions and went there. I
Wow.
can't describe it to you. It will go and attach itself to wherever, because I guess she probably dislodged some of it and it was just floating around. It will just find a source to attach itself
Mhm.
to.
Yeah.
It once it can get blood, it will attach itself to it. And because she said it was all over my liver, it was on every surface that it could be in my lower abdomen. So it was all my appendix was taken out in my second surgery because the whole thing was covered, although it's a tiny thing anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
because of her surgery, it got worse because it came up to my umbilical. So I had umbilical endometriosis, where every time I had my period, it would also be bleeding from my
God.
nipple and other parts. So it was intense. After 3 months of healing, I had to do a deeper surgery after seeing
Mhm.
her, but at least seeing her started the real treatment.
Yeah. Got it. So, wow, that alone just sounds massive to have to do that.
Yeah.
And okay, so that was at 22. Um, so what did life and treatment look like for that?
Okay, so life, um, I on a social level, it's like a duality where I want to be normal. Like because I'm being treated normal. So like even if I walk on the train and I need to sit, I look fine. I
Right.
don't look like I need to sit as a young woman and I'm sitting and I have to now get up if somebody is an older person than myself because I just have to get up. I can't let an old person stand in front of me and just look at me. So
Mm-hmm.
I will need to sit there because I
Mm-hmm.
have a ball of pain about to rip through me, but I will have to stand up for a person. So it's like I'm not being treated like a person that needs assistance because I look fine. So I was
Yeah.
trying to be fine. And by doing that, I just developed this one, I developed this way of pretending to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
I would have like crying episodes just for moments at a time. Like it would just be intense and just gone, and I would just be able to just come and be okay and be normal. But for
Mm-hmm.
the most part, even when I was on a lot of painkillers in order to like walk into the job, I couldn't even sit properly. My everything hurt when I sat down on my butt. Everything hurts. Like it was intense, the pain that I used to go through. But and I just say that just because in case somebody else feels this stuff, I just want them to know that this is a thing as well, you know?
Yeah.
Pain
Yeah.
in the rectum and pain in your overall lower body is just on 100. And so I used to have identity issues that because I was so young, you know, I used to feel
Mm-hmm.
like when I see people coming into the office talking loudly, like, hey, good morning, with their coffee, and I'm just like, I feel like I can't even speak loudly because if I speak too loudly, it's going to make the pain worse. You know, like I just have to be level and just calm, moving really quietly. Just, I don't know how I'm even doing this type of calm, you know? And I
Yeah.
feel like I'm always in my head, like I'm always tending to the pain until I gave the pain a descriptive, like it had a whole texture to it. I knew it very well. Like it had its own personality. It was another part of me that was just a thing that I couldn't control. It had its own shape and color and everything. It was that intimate. And I mostly connected with the pain more than even other people around me. Thank God I had like, you know, I have a core group of people, but um, I wasn't able to connect with humans normally. So I came off either disingenuous, I'm sure, or just too nice because I couldn't be aggressive because I'm already I don't think it's in my nature to be that aggressive unless I need to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm just very quiet and awkward for I'm 6 feet. Like I should be powerful, like you know, that quote unquote, I should be. But I felt like I wanted to curl. I just want to bend, I just want to just curl
Yeah.
in a corner. So basically at that time, I was blessed to have good friends around me who would if I'm walking to the train and I have to stop because I'm in so much pain. So I'd be talking spiritedly, something happened, blah, blah, and I'm like, ow, and I just can't speak anymore. They are there to be like, oh, you're having a lot of pain, and would be able to walk me to our corner until it goes away because it would literally take away my voice. And it would just like, you have to stop everything that you're doing and let it pass. And then the spike pass, and then you could go down to the regular pain that you're always feeling and
Yeah.
continue walking and stuff. So you have understanding friends, very few understanding friends who aren't teasing you about your diet. Because at this point, I started looking into my diet, trying to reduce, you know, inflammation through the foods I eat, trying to
Mm-hmm.
explore whatever options I have. And so the second surgery happened, um, and the second surgery was basically a radical resectioning, which is basically where they just took off the first layer of the surface of everything. Just even if it didn't have
Mm-hmm.
endometriosis at that one spot, they just still removed the layer just in case it was there somewhere about to start,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as a baby endo or something like that.
Yeah.
They got rid of organs that weren't needed, like the appendix, because it was there, and took
Mm-hmm.
it off the liver, off the kidney, wherever it was, and not the kidney, the bladder, and so it was a long, intense surgery and went well, but you know, I was in the hospital for a few days. And so I started to feel like I had a new lease on life after this 24. Well, no, I was 23 at that time. Uh,
Mm.
and it just came right back out in a year. Like after one solid year,
Mm-hmm.
I got I had to do an MRI, which the journey of the whole thing was just intense, the stuff that I had to go through.
Yeah.
After the surgery, you know, everybody just expects to just see you and you're good now, right? This means that you're fine now. Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great, you know? And I'm like, I hope so. Still having certain pains, still trying to figure out why am I still having this much pain? This doesn't make sense. But maybe it's not as bad as before, so I'll take it, you know? So my
Yeah.
even my idea of pain changed because I don't know what is bad or good anymore. I just, as long as I'm not dying, it's not bad. So that's not good to feel like the only time pain is bad is when you actually can't move.
Yeah.
Just didn't understand how to like, so I didn't know how to gauge my own pain after a while. But anyway, um the the endometriosis apparently came back, and the doctor just said it to me very plainly. He said, Sophia, after getting your MRI, it's been a year since the radical resectioning, and the endometriosis came back on all of the scar tissue that we left, because you had scar tissue from the actual surgery, from the lifting off.
Yeah.
It came back on the scar tissue, and he never, I know he did not want that to happen, because it's thinner. The surface is thinner. It's almost like if you took the first layer of your skin, how it's a thinner kind of skin that you have left.
Mm.
And it came back on that surface, and he said it came back, and he used the word angered. And
Mm.
so it's worse. And he said it's aggressive. It's deep and aggressive.
Wow.
And I said, well, okay, well, maybe I could keep, maybe there's a way, because I haven't been eating well since the surgery. I've been eating all the chicken, which has a lot of estrogen in it. Maybe I could try not to do that anymore. And he said, we can give you an IUD, because I didn't, at that, for a short time, I didn't have any kind of contraception.
Mhm.
He said, at this rate, your endometriosis is making its own estrogen. Even if you stop eating estrogen, it has enough estrogen to duplicate itself. I just, when he said that, I think I went into just blank, just okay,
Yeah.
cool. For 4 years, I just didn't care anymore. I was just like, it's fine. I was like, it's fine. If that's how, the disease, and I just like, it just, I don't know. It
Yeah.
just,
Like that's crazy news to hear after going through a surgery that's so invasive and that like you hope it solves the problem, right? Because it sounds like they removed the surfaces from everything. So you hope that everything is removed, and to hear that not only has it returned, but it's more aggressive, like that would definitely put you in the state of, all right,
mm-hmm.
what do I even do?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wow.
It was
So,
um, it was intense. It was
mm,
intense, and but one thing for sure, I feel like I wanted to give up. I didn't want to give up. But it was because I was having regular young adult life issues separate from this very big mountain of a problem in my
mhm,
life. It just felt like, coupled together, it was too much, because I think it would be too much to just have that one problem, and also too much to have the stuff that I was also dealing with on a personal level. I would have considered it as being too much, but to have both together,
mm,
something had to give. I just checked out mentally. For maybe a full year, I didn't care about anything at all. I went into denial. And
mhm.
after that, then I started to fight. And I think that's where the Endo Warrior phrase comes, is when when you decide to fight.
Yeah.
Because I started to read I started to read stories of people, women who had really, I had to read the stage 4, like the ones that have really bad endometriosis. So
Yeah.
I could see that it's real. What I went through was not like me making it up, or
Mhm.
some other thing.
Yeah.
But when I read it, and these women had gone through natural remedies to help themselves, but they had lost relationships. When I read
Mhm.
their stories and just how misunderstood they were, I identified so much with it that I had to stop reading it, because it felt like I felt physically. And I remember telling my mom, and because she was sitting there while I was reading it, I just said, Mommy, I feel right now, like even though you're sitting there, I feel like I'm walking by myself in a forest at night. Just for
Yeah.
like, I feel like I'm stuck here, like in this forest at night. I don't know what's happening, and I
Yeah.
feel fully and completely, surely alone. And this person that I'm reading, had a wonderful relationship. The guy was um very understanding, supportive, until he just got frustrated. It can really do that, because he kept coming back for her, and she had to constantly have surgery, and always having a period. The whole thing is just so unpleasant, and it just upset me so bad that I just said there has to be another way, and refused to just cave, and just, even if I felt like caving, and at some points I feel like I caved in my own head, but I never really caved, because I never stopped researching. I never stopped looking into natural remedies, even if it means natural. things to alleviate the pain that I
Mm-hmm.
could afford. Because a lot of the real good stuff, like acupuncture, and like at the time when I
Mm-hmm.
just started to war with this, I was just like, I don't know if I can afford that. Like that sounds expensive. What is an acupuncture? Like all that
Mm-hmm.
for pain management. But I realized simple things like dietary changes, and that's what helped me. To be honest, over the years,
Yeah.
I credit the fact that I I still have pain, but it's not as much to dietary changes because I had reduced or completely eliminated meat for the most part out of my diet, because the meat that we have, the commercial meats,
Mm-hmm.
they are given estrogen, which is the growth and multiplication hormone, which is why endometriosis grows and multiplies in your body like that.
Yeah.
That's the hormone that they give to chickens and to cows so that they can get fat, and give them antibiotics because they're growing too fast. They're always sick. So you're
Mm-hmm.
eating estrogen and antibiotics uh, in your body,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why you have young little girls with a body on them, because of the kind of foods that we're eating in this day and age. So I
Mm-hmm.
had to, for my own good, and I actually feel different, because if I have right now a piece of chicken, I will start having tenderness in my bosom. That's how
Wow.
fast I feel it.
Yeah.
So my body is very reactive, and I'm very in tune with my body because of it.
Yeah.
And it's the changes with the herbs and stuff. I started to you're on a different level. Like, I've gone through so much chastisement for my lifestyle, like, just even before I had the confidence of just being okay with what I'm doing. Just, oh,
Mm-hmm.
everything you eat has to be organic. Oh, I'm sure it's not even really organic, because they put organic there. You just want to spend all, you're not gonna have any money, because she has to buy the more organic things. The thing is right there, that's 99 cents, but no, $3 for one. You have to buy it because it says organic. And like
Yeah.
everybody at my job, everywhere I go, it's just me and my mom, and me and my few friends that were into holistic living. Everybody else, anywhere else, you're just complicated. You're the
Yeah.
one person that has to be scrutinizing the menu. You're the one person that has to not, you can't eat gluten. Ugh, we can't eat cheese. You can't drink too much. Oh no. Just very annoying. And I don't want to be that way. But eventually I just didn't care. I was just unapologetic. It's like, you have to be that way, or else
Yeah.
is they're not carrying your burdens. You're the one carrying your burdens. You just have to find your tribe. It meant for me that I had to stay by myself a lot, because I had to just be okay with not
Mm-hmm.
going out. Although I feel like I'm a going out type of person. Like, I feel like this disease definitely curbed me, the person that I would be. I would have probably
Mm.
gotten into too much trouble. And I don't mean that I'm a promiscuous person. I just mean I was kind of naive. I was raised very sheltered. And so I would probably want to just explore too much too fast. I feel like that's a thing that I have. And
No, we're like explore at the normal teenage explore
yeah.
rate.
I don't know. Like, and so I keep trying to rationalize the reason for this extreme limitation that was just imposed upon me through endometriosis. Like, I'm like,
Mm.
maybe it's protecting me from my own self. I don't know, but it definitely, I feel like what it did for my personality type is that I am good at pain. And I hate saying it that way, but I feel like I empathize with anybody in pain,
Yeah.
anybody at all, any animal, even if a thing looks sad. I'm just like, well, that's not a real person, so I can't feel pain. But like, I'm anything that just looks like, I can't watch certain movies. I'm very like empathetic with that
Mhm.
stuff, because and I
Mhm.
always want to alleviate it, and I always make space for them, even if they don't want it. People don't react the same. People don't all need the same kind of space.
Yeah.
Someone might be in pain, but they don't want you to help them with their bag, or
Mhm.
something like that.
Yeah.
But I'm always making sure that I let people feel safe, because I needed that so much, and I never felt safe a lot, because I just looked like somebody that was just complaining about something, or just always in under the weather, but I look fine. That's the thing. So.
Mm. And that does have an impact on your psyche, especially if it's happening from you're young and you're still forming your personality, you're still kind of like gaining your footing in the world.
Yeah.
If people are questioning whether or not you're really in pain, and if people are telling you, oh, we don't see anything, we hear that you're complaining, but we actually don't see anything,
Mhm.
it causes you to question yourself, so that that hearing that over and over again impacts you.
It did. It also causes you to, whenever the truth comes out, which is yes, you were right all along. This thing that you felt, that you were something is wrong. This you're in
Mhm.
a lot of pain. Something is wrong, and you were panicking, but nobody was listening.
Yeah.
It makes you, and then you realize that you were right. You
Mhm.
feel angry,
Yeah.
like, okay, so are you
Yeah.
seriously telling me that I questioned myself this entire time, wondering if this pain is what every other girl feels, this
Mhm.
level? And I kept trying to make my body be able to hold the pain because I thought this was normal, but it wasn't normal.
Right.
Only for it to be a problem for real, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then, so because of that, you have anxiety. It can create anxiety. So now, as soon as you feel something strange, you're like, huh, well, is this a big thing? I'm not sure
Mm.
if this is a big thing or not, because, you know, I don't want to just overlook it. And then it's actually a big thing because, the last thing I overlooked many times was a big thing. Let's just
Yeah.
look into it just in case.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just have a complex, that patient that's always thinking something is wrong. I don't have that, but I see myself as somebody that I keep having to talk myself off of that by myself, so I don't become that patient. But
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned that, like having your tribe, being very selective about your tribe, and having people around you who get why you eat this certain food, and they're also in holistic living, that has been helpful. Um,
yeah, for sure.
what in what other ways has having the right people around you been helpful?
In other ways, well, it's helped me because they offer emotional support too. Um,
Mhm.
and I feel less strange of a person. All of that should come from within, but I'm still very grateful for the tribe because when I explain what I'm feeling, I never felt like I was overdoing it, or like, like they never showed distrust in what I was saying. They believed me and it was real, they understood that it was real, and I
Yeah.
didn't feel crazy. And that helped me tremendously, to validate myself, as sad as that might sound. But
Mhm.
they also helped because they were there during the recovery, the surgeries and the recoveries. And they also are also on the same journey of, like, because I think what happens to me, if you're close enough, you will change your diet. Like if you are hearing what's going on with me all the time, my mom's that she's
Mhm.
gluten, she just doesn't anymore. Nothing that I can't eat is really here in this house again. Like it's that her diet changed from witnessing what happened to me. She's just not the same person anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing with other close friends of mine. Some of them are just now coming to, where they're like asking about certain things. Like, I know you
Mhm.
always talk about mushrooms, and it's because of their own illnesses. Like little things are happening now. They're realizing, well, maybe I should actually consider this
Yeah.
that Sophie always does.
Yeah. I would have to say, like, on a personal level, you're like um an unofficial naturopath in my mind. So if I'm just like randomly talking about something, you might say, oh, you should try this thing. Oh, you should drink this tea. Oh, this herb does this thing. I'm like, how does she know all of this?
I have to say though that my relationships with you and our other really good friend, like Sister Artavia, have been like clutch for me, because it's the this I think that it can actually drive a person insane if you let it.
Yeah.
If you let it, it can drive you insane. And I've had other life issues where it just, if it weren't for you guys, you giving me the tools about affirmation, just from basic things to self-love affirmations, writing out gratitude. We had a gratitude group, just things that we're grateful for every day. That stuff helps, because it helps you to look at the bright side of life, and you feel like you have a community and you are supported. It's nice because when I went to this is how I knew that I was right. Oh, like your intuition is amazing. You just need to just know. But like I saw my primary and after my second surgery, and he said to me, he's this old man, very wise. Everything he says always happens. I'm always afraid to see him. But
Oh my God.
no, seriously. he he literally said, "This knee, watch out for this knee." And literally, like a couple of months later, I'm like, I have to do a surgery on my knee. I'm like, what is going on? So anyway, he said to me, he said, don't, he was telling me stop doing, because I wanted to just like start being a normal person and do my abs, have exercises and stuff. He said, stop. I know you had surgery 7 months ago. Do not do any abs. But he said to me, you are not where you think you're like, you this thing might actually come back, just so you know.
Mm.
And at that time, he didn't know that it already came back, and I just was not going to tell him. But
Mhm.
he said it might come back, and he just said basically that he said he knew the story, my story, how long it took to get diagnosed and everything, because
Yeah.
the endometriosis came back before a year. It came back like months before. I found out, yeah, after a year, but he
Mhm.
knew.
Yeah.
My doctor knew, because I had done the MRI before. That MRI was done months before. Anyway, that's a whole long story. But my primary doctor, no, not the OBGYN, but the primary, he said, you can live a normal life. He said, this is a terrible disease. We don't understand it. We can't stop it from growing. We can only help with the symptoms. And
Yeah.
even in that, you're getting a backlash of fertility issues that might happen from
Yeah.
us helping with the symptoms of the disease, which also itself can prevent you from having kids. The whole thing is just a mess. And he
Yeah.
told me that he's the most straightforward doctor. And he said to me, you can live a normal life, kid. He calls me kid.
Oh.
He said, you can live a normal life, kid, but you have to eliminate stress. He said,
Mm.
whatever is triggering high cortisol release from your
Yeah.
adrenals, like you really need to reduce it. It needs
Yeah.
to be reduced. And I just said to myself, boy, I just wish that I could just control that stuff. Like, maybe if I was rich, or like just the things that had the stress attached to it was like, financial stuff, or like
Mm.
just emotional stuff. You can't control everything. He just asked me to balance my life in such a way that I am not carrying a lot of stress. I'm sleeping more than 6 hours, not
Mhm.
constantly fatiguing my adrenals with caffeine, which is something that I end up getting like really attached to with my job. But then I had
Mhm.
to kind of withdraw from it because of the
Mhm.
adrenals. And that's why I'm grateful for my tribe, because that's been honestly the reason, because I don't have like the biggest family. That's been the reason why I'm here. Like I predominate my mom and my tribe, because otherwise this thing, I've seen other people commit suicide who have endometriosis. And when I see those things, I shut down too. Like I just unfollow all the endometriosis sites, all the
Mhm.
publications because I can't stand it. People are going through a lot with this. Like women have been going to the hospital. This one girl went to the hospital and they weren't taking her seriously. She was in a lot of pain. She went to the ER. She was just in so much pain. She was shaking, which I know how that feels. And they
Yeah.
sent her home, and she posted. She posted before she went to the hospital, because I followed her at the time. And she's in a lot of pain. She's one of those transparent people who has Endo Warrior on her profile and stuff. And she
Mhm.
was on her way to the hospital. She came back. She was in tears, posting that they sent her home. They didn't take her serious, and she committed suicide the very next day. I completely checked out. I was just like,
Wow.
screw this. I'm done talking about it. I just disassociated myself with it, with
Yeah.
endometriosis. It was just like I
Wow.
wasn't posting about it, nothing. But then there are lots of celebrities that are now talking about it. Or Tia talked about it, like Tia Murray from
Mhm.
from Sister Sista. There are a
Mm-hmm.
few other people that talk about it now. So I decided to post about it. It was kind of, you know what, why it's kind of embarrassing? Like any embarrassing emotion or feeling or semblance of embarrassment that kind of tries to sprout up is really
Mm-hmm.
because of your femininity. It just
Yeah.
feels like it's making you look flawed, like really
Mm-hmm.
flawed to a man. You know, like so you're putting yourself out there, you look like a flawed, like you know how men look at women and they're like really assessing to see if you can carry their child, you know, like that kind of thing. Like they're I hear or read that that's kind of a subconscious thing when they look at you. To look
Mm-hmm.
how well you can carry their child or like how maternal you look, you know, also
Mm-hmm.
the other things. But I just felt like that was a hit to my little ego in a way. But I had to just I don't care because at the end of the day, somebody else is going to identify with what I'm saying because I did I end it in encouragement and
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten so many DMs from people I don't even know these people on
Yeah.
different walks of life that are just fully understanding what I'm talking about because it's real. You know, for a lot of
Mhm.
people, it's real.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such, that point you made about like men and feeling as though you're flawed as a woman. It's like, it's a really complex and deep one. So
Mm-hmm.
the podcast episode that's literally before this one,
Mm-hmm.
I talked about, this ancient wound that we have within our system, within our DNA around loss and infertility.
Mm-hmm.
And what I shared in that episode was that, when we're just starting out as like a tribe of humans, then giving birth, having children was almost like a requirement for our survival,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because like the
We had
as
to. Yeah.
humans, right, we had to
Mm-hmm.
reproduce to survive. And, the bigger the tribe was, the more we could protect ourselves from, this danger and, carry on traditions. Like reproduction was critical to our survival. And
Mm-hmm.
within our system, even though that's not the thing today, like, some people choose not to have children, or there are other ways that you can have children if becoming pregnant yourself is a challenge. So even though we have evolved from that basic need, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that it's still not a part of our DNA, or that it's still not a part of our blueprint.
Oh,
So I
true.
totally get that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I would say to anyone who's hearing and
Mm-hmm.
also feels that sense of vulnerability or shame around, not being equipped as a woman, or not being, whatever the word is,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you want to know that you get to be who you are and be loved just the same.
Say that. Yes.
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 Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
For sure. For sure. Oh my gosh. That
Yeah.
part.
Mm, yeah. Um, we've also spent essentially the entire week together, or like the past several days together, because you've been
Oh yeah.
part of the Birth Warrior boot camp, which has been just like life giving,
I
like
love
life
it.
giving. After the first session, I wrote in my journal beside me,
Mhm.
gratitude, gratitude, life giving. Like that's the
So good.
energy that I felt, and that energy has certainly been carried throughout each day of the session.
For sure.
Um, yeah, so tell me how that experience has been for you, being listening into those sessions and participating.
Yeah. Um, it's been great so far um because I'm healing from now my third surgery, which is gonna be the last one. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I want to put myself in the frame of mind as a person that might, I might will eventually be able to have a child with someone if I'm,
Yeah,
whenever I'm with someone.
yeah,
So, other than supporting you, I knew that it would be beneficial for me, and it has been because I am very, first of all, I love the women on that. I love the women that are on that the boot in the boot camp
Yeah.
And I admire their strength. I admire them so much, and it gives me strength. It's the same thing that we were talking about today, where we're saying you one person is operating in strength, it gives other women the same permission to operate in their strength too. And when you see that, it just only makes you want to just be like, okay, yeah, you can do it then. But actual tools were taken from all of those sessions, because even though I'm not an angel mom, and I didn't I didn't have a loss, I didn't have a pregnancy loss,
Mm-hmm.
I still benefited from the conversations, because it felt like I I feel something like a loss at
Yeah.
my age. At 34, I mean, I could only hope that I can have kids, one. And two, for angel moms, and angel moms are moms that have lost a baby.
Yeah.
Um, for angel moms who are looking to try again, I feel like that. Like, if I was looking to actually try, I feel like how they feel. I would feel very cautious and very protective of myself. I wouldn't want, because I'd feel like I might have a very delicate pregnancy if I were to get pregnant, because
Yeah.
all of the attention, the negative attention that I have had to have
Mm-hmm.
medically in that region.
Yeah.
So the conversations, that the little topics that we had, like our responses, fight or flight and freeze, all the
Mm-hmm.
different awareness of the body, and the somatic therapy,
Mm-hmm.
trauma and healing the trauma. This is stuff that I can definitely relate to, and I can use, and I benefited from being a part of those sessions, even though I didn't, because it feels like on some level I did, but not on the same level, clearly. But it just feels like we're literally all on the same journey, all of
Yeah.
us on the same journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and I really, one thing I took away from that whole experience was just how your body can hold trauma. And that's the thing that's been on my mind, actually, since I've for this whole time, the last week and into this week that I've been on there.
Mm-hmm.
All the surgeries that I've had, and like all the stuff, that has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine how much trauma that I need to release. That's the reason why I'm so serious about warring with this, because I'm not joking. Like, I really am going to heal from this. I'm going to take or use up all the tools I can use, and
Mm-hmm.
the best I can be from it, because it 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 gives you this definitely gave me a whole platter of things to heal from by itself, this by itself, because it impacts your whole life. But
Mm-hmm.
the angel moms, the thing that happened to them also now impacts their life too. And so listening to their experiences, listening to the coaching tips that you've given them, or the techniques that you've given them, I can use it too for myself. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll remember, I'll be using them, I'll have them in practice, and I'll remember when I'm having my child that I
Mm-hmm.
want I want a doula too. Like, I want all these things. I need the most support that I can get,
Yeah.
just you know what I mean? Just to make sure that I'm gonna have the experience that I want to have, the same way that they are more delicate and need, more attention than just,
Yes.
you know.
Yes. And
Yeah.
we know that, like this shouldn't be the case, but I would say like working with medical teams, like they're humans, which means that they might not have the best personality or they might be having a bad day. And just like having someone ensuring that you are creating basically your tribe and the support that you need as you're navigating all of that stuff, because you never know who and what you'll interact with having to, be in a doctor's office, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So for anyone who um is, well, even before we get there, I like this idea of just like speaking out into the universe, like making it heard. the life and the experience that you want. So I just want to create space for that, for you to just say out into the universe as you're working on your healing, just speak out the life that you want for yourself.
um, the life that I want for myself. Hmm. I want to be free. I just want to be liberated from all of the perceived limitations that I have built around me all these years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to feel freedom within my body, in
Mm-hmm.
movement, especially.
Yeah.
I want to have confidence and assertiveness. I want to live a life that is filled with beauty and love and sharing and joy. And I
Mm-hmm.
want to live a life where I'm waking up every morning knowing that I have I serve a good purpose, like I'm helping someone somewhere. Uh,
Yeah.
and I want to be in a beautiful setting. I think honestly that is so important to me. Like I don't know. I don't know if it's vain, but it's so important for me to be in a setting that is very inspirational for me and
Yeah.
also in nurturing. I need some cradling from my setting. It needs to have some earthly elements.
Yeah.
I need to feel my femininity because I
Yeah.
keep my femininity feels like it's damaged right now. It's just like, oh, I need help. I need to feel like a powerful woman again, for real, like a real woman, like how I should have been feeling all this time. And
Mm.
I want to feel protected. I want
Mhm.
to be protected.
Yeah.
Um, I just want, and I want abundance of joy, of peace. I want to be able to, I want to be able to handle whatever, because this thing can make you, I want to be able to handle whatever comes my way. And I
Yeah.
also just want to relish all the great moments and have mostly great moments anyway.
Yeah.
Love, full of love and joy and overcoming and success, and balance. And I
Yeah.
want to also be able to tune out the noise of the world. I want to be good at that, to be able to be good at tuning out the noise of the world and really honoring myself and walking in my authentic truth without
Yeah.
second guessing myself. Like
Yeah.
just no second guessing. I know this is it. This is it that I like and this is what I want. This is what I prefer. Not
Mm-hmm.
just being gullible because I don't want to be a bother. No, I just want to be able to just understand myself so well that I'm not bringing my question to the world, because the world is always asking, well, who do you think you are? I'm
Mm.
bringing my answer to the world. That's what I want my life to look
Oh boy. I felt that one.
right. Bringing our answers, not our
I
questions.
felt that one. So, I felt that one.
I've
Whoa.
been I've been drawn to people that seem to have that in them. And I realize I get obsessed with people and I'm thinking, why am I always like doing this? I always find someone and I'm like, oh, I like this person a lot. And I'm like, why do I like them? And I'm like, it's because they have that thing. There's a through line of
Yeah.
just marching to their own drum unapologetically. And for some reason it works. Like it just works for them. Like, I don't know. And I just, I want to just be like, I want to just be just like that. Whatever I'm noticing in them is what I want for myself too.
Yeah.
And it's
I
that.
love it. I love that. Ooh, beautiful.
So good, right? I love it too.
The next question that I have is for someone, I think you've made it clear that for someone who has endometriosis or think they might have endometriosis, for them to be really assured that they're not crazy and they're not making things up.
Mm-hmm.
But for someone who is, a family member or a friend or is connected to someone who has endometriosis or connected to someone who has some condition that causes like pain and discomfort, what would you offer to them, like the observer, the family member, the friend, as to how they can support the person who is in pain and the person who is suffering?
The advice that I would give the observer is to just make space for that person,
Mhm.
to reduce the critic or the criticisms,
Mhm.
the kind of cynicism that's there, just to believe that
Yeah.
this person is experiencing something that is not obvious on the outside, and to even inquire more so that the person feels free and safe to open up about the pain, because the more they can uncover about the
Mhm.
pain, it gives them answers, and it helps with the treatment as well.
Yeah.
So them just not having the added burden of tailoring their responses for you and like trying to not sound crazy, just
Mhm.
making sure that they feel safe in a way that if you wanted to feel safe, you would
Yeah.
want someone else to make space for you. And
Mhm.
also encourage the things, the positive aspects of their lives, like encourage um more moments of joy in their lives, support them if they have a doctor's appointment, check in on them.
Mhm.
It means a lot just to check in. um,
Yeah.
and just because it's a very isolating disease, it's really good to, no matter how small it is and no matter how they react, just check in on them, um,
Yeah.
and encourage them to eat well and to research. Just encourage them to do the right thing and just be loyal, be consistent, and be there for them, because it's not an easy road at all.
Yeah. Yeah. And like we've obviously been friends for years, and when you started to share more details about the surgeries, like that's when I was like, wait, this is like on a whole other level. Like I knew it was bad, I didn't realize that it took over so much of a person's life.
For sure, for sure. For
Yeah.
sure. And I would also encourage them to research, like I snapped, I forgot who I think it was my dad. I forgot who it was, like a family member who just
Mm-hmm.
I've been talking to about this disease for a long time, and they still, it's endometriosis. I want you to actually look it up because it's been affecting me. Like, like if you've seen it affect me so much and you don't even know what it means at all, you didn't just listen. Like, just at least show deep interest, a lit surface deep, just surface deep, like definition and word, that's the word. Or any other, if they have any other chronic, any illness that cause them chronic pain, especially in the fertility area, like just at least know the name and at least look at what it is, so that you are a little bit informed and educated as well about it. That's if you're like a close friend or family member to that person, because that would mean you care a lot if you decide to research. And to the
Yeah.
person that actually has it, mm, there's so much stuff I would tell them, but
Mm-hmm.
just listen to your body and listen to your intuition, and advocate in the most respectable way, in the most respectful way. Advocate for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and don't stop until you get heard, because unfortunately, I don't know, just make sure that you present very well. It's unfortunate, the medical situation, but if you don't present well in a doctor's office, it affects what they tell you, and it might affect your treatment, because that has happened to me before, and it taught me to create a whole personality when I
Mm-hmm.
go into a visit. So just do not show too much anxiety in front of a doctor, and let them feel safe enough to tell you exactly what is going on, whatever they see. Do your research, but don't project your research onto the doctor. Just listen, and
Mm-hmm.
then ask very key questions, have them written down before.
Yeah.
Have your questions answered. Have no questions before you start to consider surgery or any other treatment. And make sure you research. If they sometimes they tell you things and you don't realize that you have an option, like, so we're gonna put you on a whatever that medicate, and you're like, my doctor was trying to put me on something for cancer patients.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and it's just like, it's gonna cut the estrogen level, da da da. I filled it, and I'm just like, what is this pill? Like I still don't know what the pill is after leaving the office. So
Mm-hmm.
make sure, even if you go home and just research before you just start taking and doing whatever, just research and and go with your intuition, ask questions, and take
Yeah.
care of yourself.
Yeah. So key. That like that advocacy piece is so key,
So key, man.
right? Because your doctor has a bunch of patients during the day
Mm-hmm.
and you are one of many.
Mm-hmm.
And you are just you, like you are the one of you. So you have to be your best advocate, basically.
Sure. You're not asking for the. It's not like you're not paying. It's not like you're not paying for insurance to pay them. So
Yeah.
just make sure the 10-minute visit that you're having is gonna. I sound like I have some resentment. Make sure the 10-minute visit that you're having is going to cover everything by being so prepared, but
Yeah.
also be um don't be abrasive. You have to really know how you have to be aware of yourself the entire time.
Mhm.
Jot down any words, any medications, jot down anything that they're thinking of doing, write it
Yeah.
down. Ask them, what is that? Write it down. This is for you. So
I also loved that in your journey, and I'm thinking specifically about, this last doctor with that medication that you were not comfortable with. Like you gave yourself time. You didn't just like accept it and gave yourself time to think about it,
mhm,
versus feeling forced into it. You also researched other options. So I loved that
for sure.
you were proactive in your care.
Hmm.
One of the things that we talked about in the birth horror boot camp was the fight, flight, and freeze responses. And obviously, when something becomes so overwhelming, you might, go into freeze because it feels like you actually don't have the power and the ability to overcome it.
Hmm.
Um, and you mentioned that at some point you had to disconnect from it, but no, you're in the active phase when you are the warrior, you are fighting against it,
Hmm.
which is probably why you're proactive in your care. But I loved that you didn't just accept, like, this is the thing that he says, and this is the thing that I'm going to do. You are doing your own research, and somewhere in your body, in your being, you're like, no, this drug isn't going to be for me, like, not today.
Mm-mm, mm-mm, not at all today. Yeah, for sure. I think really quickly that the the disease can make you feel like you can't do anything. Whatever you do is futile. It can feel that way because your body almost like it's fighting against itself, you feel like. But just I wish I could tell you all the herbs and stuff that I take, but because I'm not a medical professional, I don't want you to just, take my word for it. Just really research on what your body needs. And I have the pills that the doctor told me that the doctor before this other doctor that did the surgery, but the doctor told me to take. I still have them because I filled it because I was in the, oh my God, I need to fill this prescription. And then I'm like, no, what
Mhm.
is this medication? It's for cancer patients it's a chemotherapy. Oh, listen.
Mhm.
I'm 34. Are you kidding me? No, no. So there has to be other ways.
Mhm.
If that's the only other way, it's not okay. And I need to have a serious conversation. Like that's where you should be. Just don't take any pill, don't take any shots until you feel comfortable with
Mhm.
give yourself time, and also don't give up. Like the only way you'll end up just taking whatever is if you have given up. I was at a place where I felt like I didn't care anymore because I didn't see a light. Like I
Mhm.
didn't feel like life was worth it. Like I just really didn't understand why I was here on earth. Like I was just like, well, I could just not be here. Like it would just make sense to just not even be here and just already just be in the next place that I was supposed to be, because this doesn't make any sense, living like this. But after working on myself and, you know, my spiritual practices, um,
Yeah.
and my tribe, my friends, my family, the ones that love and care for me,
Mhm.
after, learning techniques from them too, I started to become I just want, if I'm here, I just want to live a great life then. And it
Ah,
means that I
yeah.
have to, yeah, I just will, if we're doing it, we're just going to really do it then. Let's just do it then. So, since we have to do it, we're going to just get it done.
Ah, I love that.
That's just what it is. Yeah.
Yes. Um, so what does your spiritual practice entail? I love that you included that.
For me, I pray a lot. I pray and I give thanks. Prayer and giving thanks. I read my Bible, but you can read whatever book that is associated with your belief.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you have some, maybe a community of people that you can either tune into online or
Yeah.
be fed and nourished, because it's necessary.
Mm.
Um, I've journaled. Journaling is big on my list of things that I do for the
Yeah.
emotional release, and just for just journaling and journaling your prayers, because I went back and looked at some of my prayers from 2012, 13. Oh, I was really going through it. So like, you could see your growth and your evolution through your own
Yeah.
words, and
Yeah.
your story too. So and spending time alone, this disease already isolates you, but I became really good at being alone and being okay with it, but I'm still working on the mental stimulation of social media or just being busy. I want to be able to just sit and not do anything at all and be okay with that for a long time. I'm still working on it. This world, you want to read a book, you need to be productive. Productivity is the word of
Yeah.
the day. Even in healing, I'm still trying to be productive. Um, so that's the thing. My spiritual practice though is praying, studying the Bible, um, and journaling. But
Yeah.
then whatever you do, your meditation, yoga, your gratitude list, setting intentions, those things I still do.
Mm-hmm.
This disease is this thing. The best exercises are like not too aggressive. I learned that last. The
Mm.
too aggressive ones aren't too good. If you could just walk, every day, take care of yourself, take care of your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Mine about
Um, so we had a somatic therapy experience together. You don't have to share the outcome of the experience, like what showed up, but I'd love to hear like what you've learned about connecting with your body through that experience.
through that experience. Well, I felt things. If you when you relax fully and allow yourself to just be in the
Mhm.
moment, your body looks like it really does talk to you.
Yeah.
That This is going to not be easy for everyone until they eventually get to the place where you actually are open to that stuff. um but it 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 was such a good experience for me. I wish I could just have that stuff every day. I'm pretty sure I'd be good if I had it every day. But I don't remember was which part of my body was being touched, but I know that I felt protective of certain places, protective like a child would be like protective. And it's not at the obvious places, it's like your side, or like somewhere like your shoulder. Just
Mhm.
something about it, and the trauma that lives in your body, it does come up in the therapy in some way, shape, or form. Either
Mhm.
for me, what came up for me was not even the thing that I thought would come up for me. The thing
Yeah.
that came up for me was it was dealing with my warrior self, like and that sounds funny how I said it. my the part of me that is confident and sure. It looks
Yeah.
like that's the thing, that's the because this that's the shaky part of me, the part of me that's like, because I didn't know how to, if I could trust myself from a young age. So
Mhm.
now that's the part that came up, and I was in shock when that came up, because apparently I'm actually a warrior. Like I'm a real, like I'm a real lion. Like I really am. That's inside of me, and I always have this affinity towards that animal, like all the time, and I didn't know why. But
Yeah.
that's the thing that came up for me when you touched somewhere. Like it was just like, whoa,
Yeah. Yeah.
right in front of me was my real self.
Yeah.
I mean, it was.
Yeah. I'm going to give some background because like I want people to understand what this practice is. But even before that, I was like on a webinar where this person who I now consider to be a mentor, she was talking about community care and how we've forgotten community care. And community care could be, if someone is sick, you go over to their house and you give them, like a bowl of soup, right? If someone had a surgery, you go over to their house and you like care for them and ensure that they have everything that they need. And in that, you came to mind. I was like, oh, I know that's like, these past couple of weeks or months has been really challenging for Sophia. And I just want her to feel cared for. Like that was legit the thought in my mind.
Yeah.
And so I packed my massage table, which I found that that table is actually heavier for me to carry around. I bought the table as like a table that I could carry around. It's quite heavy. Thankfully, I had Jose, so Jose brought the table for me. We drove to Sophia's house, brought the table up into your bedroom, had basically just had this mini session. So it wasn't like the deep session that I have with clients. It was more just like allowing you to feel comfort in your body. So we didn't even do therapy, we did comfort basically.
Mhm.
And yeah, it was really beautiful what showed up.
Yeah.
um and to your point about like when the body is able to relax and when the mind is able to quiet, like the mind is always just like chatting away, analyzing, questioning, remembering, recalling. The mind is always active, and because the mind is so busy and sometimes frankly loud,
Mhm.
because all of that is happening, we're not able to tune into the body and notice what's in the body,
Mhm.
right? But when you're able to find that stillness and notice what's in the body, really when you're supported in finding that stillness, because it's sometimes difficult to get to it on your own unless it's like a meditation or some other guided experience. But
Mhm.
even if you're like listening to a meditation recording, you might not feel safe doing it on your own, especially if you've gone through trauma and you don't know what's going to show up.
Mhm. For sure.
Like one example for me is I've had like a past life regression CD for like legit maybe 10 years, and I'm like, I'm not doing any past life regression
Yeah,
on my own, because who knows
yeah, that
what I
was
will
really
find.
yeah, exactly. No, it's always rough.
I think it's similar for other people. Like, if I allow myself to really relax in my body and really be still, like what might show up. But
Mhm.
when there's someone with you that's holding the space for you, you feel safer doing that.
Yeah.
And as we were together in your room, like the lighting was down, just like this really soft and calming lighting, and it was just this really beautiful space where your body was able to really relax, and
Mm.
then your warrior showed up.
For sure. I could not
Yeah.
believe it.
Yeah.
You guys,
Yeah.
all she did was like the not all she did, but like I don't know like I don't know exactly what like why it came. It just she was just going through the steps of it, and I jolted slightly, like I was just like you know
Mm-hmm.
and I just saw, m- honestly, as clear as day, the lion just looking at me and then me beside the lion, almost like we're the same.
Yeah.
And it just was amazing. It was amazing. I don't know.
Yeah.
You have to explain to
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And for each person, their body holds like who knows how far your lion goes, right? Like who knows what the beginnings of your lion is. But like you said, you've always been drawn to lions.
Always, always, yeah.
And when it showed up for you, it was almost like validation or affirmation. Like each time you see a lion, you don't have to question why you're connected to lions. You just know that that's something that really resonates with your spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And you can go back to that imagery and find a source of strength.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
That's what I love about, somatic therapy, because it comes from your body. It comes from you,
Yes.
you
Yes.
know? Like there are different things that represent strength for me that
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be a lion,
Mm-hmm.
but for you it's the lion. So if it was coming from me, for me to give you an image that represented strength, it wouldn't resonate with you
Oh,
the
right,
way that the
exactly.
lion. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So like in talk therapy, when things are coming from your therapist's mind, from your therapist's body, really, that's why it isn't always as effective, because it didn't come from you, it came from someone outside of you.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But I love that you had that experience, and I love that, this imagery of the lion, really this embodiment of the lion. It's not like, imagining the lion at this point. You feel like you embody it, and
Yeah. It's
you're
with
emboldened
yeah,
because of that. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I just feel like my heart just like warming. My heart is just like smiling right now. Like I'm literally putting my hand on my chest, and it feels like my heart just has the broadest smile right now.
And it's funny because the your picture up here, it has the broad. Can you see your own?
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. I love the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love you so. Thank you for sharing your story with me.
Oh, you're welcome. This is awesome. And I hope it helped someone.
I'm sure it will. I am sure it will. What's so cool about podcasts is like they kind of just stay, they're kind of the forever thing. You
Mhm.
recorded in 2020, and in 2023, someone is listening to it and being like, oh my gosh,
Hi,
that
person
story
listening
is
to
like
it
my
10
story.
years later. Hi, person listening to it 10 years later. We see you.
Cool. Well,
It's all
thank
meant to
you.
be.
Yes, it's all meant to be. You're listening to this for a
At the
reason.
right time.
Cool. Well,
So,
thank you, Sophia. Thank you for sharing your story. Sending shout out to you and all of the Endo Warriors out in the world, all of the birth warriors who are deciding that because they're going to live, they are going to live well. If
yeah,
we're going to do this thing called life, let's do it well.
do it well. We are.
Yeah. Yes. Well, thank you again. I always like to close with this question as to what makes you a birth warrior. In your case, I'm going to ask what makes you an endo warrior.
Wow. Okay. I am an endo warrior because I am in the face of being diagnosed with endometriosis. I am taking the best care of myself. I'm living my life in a way that is, you know, at the highest vibration for myself. I'm
Mhm.
making sure that I'm not letting the disease rule my life anymore. I am taking control. I
Yeah.
am doing my research. I'm going to constantly research, constantly take care of myself, constantly um, take all the necessary precautions and educate myself as the times change, because more and more information is coming out regarding
Mhm.
the disease and regarding possible treatment options. I'm staying on top of it. But for the most part, I'm not even focusing on the disease, which is funny because I'm an endo warrior, but I'm not focusing on endometriosis. I'm
Mhm.
focusing on like my wholeness. Um,
Mhm.
because I'm sure that if I focus on my wholeness, it will also impact that part of my life, just like how that one part of my life impacted the rest of my whole life. So my wholeness is important, my mental stability, me taking very good care of my entire body, not just
Mhm.
because of the endometriosis,
Mhm.
and feeding myself nourishing foods, that makes me a warrior because
Mm.
I'm not just gonna fold. I'm just
Ah,
gonna keep on.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
You know when you're in church and you hear something and you can't stay still? That's how I feel right now.
I am an endo warrior because I will walk past all of the, and this is no shade to anybody who eats fast food, but I don't consider, I will walk straight past Wendy's and I will fast if I must because I refuse to put things in my body that does not feed me the right way, the way that I need to be nourished. That's why I'm an endo warrior. That's a war because I would love to go into Wendy's, but I'm just not doing it. I'm not
Yeah.
doing anything that's not good for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. All right. Spoken like the warrior that you are. Thank you. Well, thank you all for tuning in. You've just heard from my gorgeous friend Sophia and the journey that she's had and the warrior that she is. Um, do you want people to be able to reach you?
Sure. They could follow me on my Instagram or just send me a message through there or just maybe my email, either one. My email address is Sophia Parkinson NYC. So it's SOPHIA PARKINSON NYC@gmail.com. Or my social media is Sophie SOPHIE underscore travels TRAVELS 876.
Okay, wonderful. And the 876, for anyone who doesn't know, that's representing Jamaica.
That's the error code.
Yes, well, thank you all for tuning in. This has been another episode of the Preparing for Pregnancy After Loss podcast, where you can find more info, my website, nataliefacey.com, or find me on Instagram at the Birth Warriors. If you feel like you are on the birth warrior journey, you've gone through loss, you've gone through infertility, you have a diagnosis that might complicate pregnancy, and you just want to be supported, you want to be among your people, among your tribe, then join our private Facebook community. It's called the Birth Warrior Community on Facebook. All right, y'all, have a wonderful rest of week, and thank you for tuning in.